Hello, this is an internal update for the Open Research Institute. So the big news and why I'm making this video is to sort of announce that we're taking like next big, maybe like formal step in establishing ORI, our little working group here, as like maybe a formal entity. And the reason for that is because a couple things. Like one is that we've already been doing a lot of work, and like the closest thing to what we're description of what we're doing is like that we're acting as a kind of incubator and investor, and that some of these things that we've been investing in, and sometimes we're investing money. A lot of it's been my personal money, or like resources, like knowledge, collaboration, and attention, and some of those things are starting to pay off. And there's also a lot more in the pipeline, and it's exciting. So I wanna I guess like start to make this visible. Like we're sort of getting like part of it is that I have a lot of inbound, a lot of projects I want to do, and more like I don't have enough time to do most of them, and I want to start to sort of formalize this network. Um, to so we can all kind of look at like here's the projects that are in front of us and who is capable of doing what, and sort of hand off things that can then be incubated and can then grow and can then either have an ROI of either actually make money or sort of bring attention or status to the network that helps everyone else and brings more people, and so on. So this is kind of the ask here internally at ORI is I want to show you what's going on and get your help. Either like if you see something here that you want to work on, let me know. Or if you can sort of help prioritize, you can ask like, I think this is an important thing, we should be doing that, or why are we doing this right now? This doesn't seem that important. So we can kind of prioritize. Okay. So here's the kind of outline. I want to go through some of the like recent successes that are ongoing, that I'm already sort of putting in resources into, and how they're going and how they fit into the big picture, and some of like the upcoming stuff, or like sort of pitches that I want to do, and why I think they're important, and hopefully by like looking at all this, you get a sense of the big picture. Like what are we doing here? What does it look like for ORI to grow? What does success look like? Because it feels a bit hard to describe what is this thing, because it's somewhere. It's like I said, it's like we're like an incubator, investor, research institute. It's all the above. It's a community. But I think sort of by seeing, I think it's easier to see to trace the big picture by just looking at like concretely what are the things that we have been doing, and maybe you'll start to see the pattern here. Okay, so let's jump into this. The first one here is the God Conjecture and the Ruliad by Sam. If you haven't been following this project, it's on my list to make a Substack post on my blog that would act as an entry point for someone who has no idea what this is, to explain like why it matters, and how we're doing this like really ambitious thing. But basically it's kind of the holy grail. Okay, it's the framework for unifying science and religion, and this is kind of a funny thing, because this is one of the first things I started with, like over a year ago, when I was writing, and I was like, I feel like there's got to be a way to figure this thing out, and I was making progress on it, and I think it's doable, and I think it's here. I actually think there's multiple ways to do it, but Sam's framework, I think, is a very promising contender. So we made this Twitter space, which you can listen to here, but I'm going to make the summary post, and there's the exciting thing for me. I'll talk about the Wolfram thing in a second, but we've already connected with like someone else, Kruger, who's in the Discord, who who sent us this, who's also been, you know, tackling a very similar thing from a different angle. One thing I think of as a consequence of Sam's work here is that it sort of defines a brand new field, which I'm calling like game theory in information space. And I think that's why Kruger's work here is relevant, because I think what all these people are doing, and I think there's more than just these two folks. It's sort of like a rediscovery of religion from first principles. And I think the exciting thing in doing that is like it's just like one prerequisite to understand here is that religion isn't just this like arbitrary ritual. It's sort of, it was a truth-seeking process that found sort of optimal ways of acting that helped humans survive. Okay, so if that's how you see religion, then the work isn't done yet. Like there should be something that can be continued. So if you can sort of rederive these things, the same answers of back then with modern formalisms, you can add on to it. You can also see which things sort of we landed on as a factor of the time, and which things are more eternal. And we can go from there. So I mean, obviously it's a pretty big thing. The relevant part here for the rest of ORI is Sam's already gotten some positive feedback from Wolfram and Michael Levin, and there's another place he's giving a talk about, which I forget. But if he can sort of fulfill that and sort of give a talk about that publicly with this will be like a good first publication from our ORI group. So this is why this is the big deal. I think what all the resources it needs here is either like help explaining it, and maybe graphics, drawings, animations, etc., and feedback from people who understand what this thing is, to sort of critical feedback. So that's happening in the Discord. Okay. The other big thing here is Tessus is in Argentina right now as for a research retreat with Edge City. If you don't know what Edge City is, they're sort of they're kind of a cool, what's it called here? It's a cool thing that started in I think San Francisco. They talk about themselves as a society incubator. So it's very similar to ORI as a group. It's just in a different culture. So this is a cool example of something I want to happen more in our network in ORI. Like this is an opportunity to go to this research retreat that came to me, but I couldn't do it. And then I was like, okay, well, Tessus is someone who has a framework. I've been wanting to invest in him, right? I know he's been doing all this work with spiral dynamics, and he was thinking about like writing a book, or just writing more on Substack or something. And I've been thinking about how to invest in him, because I think if his work is, I think, once developed, would grow into something like Sam, where it'll just get the attention of notable people who will endorse it, and when they do, that will look good for the ORI network. Will show that we, amongst us, we're good at finding novel ideas or novel breakthroughs that more notable people with their resources and reach and network are looking for. So we're able to sort of produce value, produce insight, and develop it, and sort of hand that off. So and the way I think Tessa's work fits into the bigger picture of ORI is it to me it fits broadly under like alignment, and that applies to like AI alignment, but also the more broad like universal alignment, which actually fits with like Sam's thing. Like if you think about religion was the original science of alignment in my head. So if we have a formal framework of that, then we can use that to sort of look at the world, reality, our economy, our society, and sort of do this alignment work. Tess's work fits with spiral dynamics, fits more specifically into like people and the growth of humans and their trajectories. And so I don't know. So you can see this as like because a lot of what ORI is an incubator, not just for like companies or ideas, but for individual human people and their potential. So one of the things I'll talk about later is like an ELO, like a ranking system for humans who come to ORI and want to sort of know where they are at and how do they get to the next growth stage. So this is, if Tess could formalize this could be helpful for us internally to use it on ourselves to sort of, get a sense of our growth stages and where to go next. But also something you can sort of deploy more broadly in the, I guess, in the most ambitious world. You can see this as like a backbone for a new algorithm system. Instead of algorithms kind of optimizing for attention, lowest common denominator, what if you had algorithms that optimize for like human growth and flourishing, and that wasn't just like a fuzzy thing, you could sort of like actually rigorously articulate that. That would be pretty world changing, right? So that's kind of the other that's why this is potentially a big breakthrough, or like a worthwhile thing to invest in. Okay, now this is my stuff. This is all the memetics work that I've been doing. So one thing that's been hard here, and why I think this doing this update I think will be useful in formalizing some of this, is that I act as both a like a director, founder, like a staff member of ORI, where I'm like doing the work of ORI, but I'm also a member of ORI. I'm like a researcher. I'm someone who's incubating, but also I want to be incubated. So I have my own projects that I want to, my own growth that I want to do. So this is me now trying to capitalize or like grow or grow my own work. So I'm planning on creating this company, kind of this marketing consultancy, and calling it Pro Social Engineering. And maybe I'll make a longer video on this because I have a lot to say about this. But it's pretty fun. It's like professional social engineering, so it's pro social engineering, but also it's like pro social engineering, so it's like pro social engineering. And I guess this is a way of I think this is like something that can be an example of something that can come out of ORI as an incubator, which is, I came to ORI. I mean, ORI didn't exist a year ago, but I came to sort of the proto ORI, like Twitter, Substack, just me writing and getting feedback from the world as I was trying to learn. And eventually I learned things and I produced useful knowledge, and then I helped people. And now this is me trying to produce value with it and then capture some of that value. And so the innovative thing about this thing is that it's I think this is something that's just never been done, doesn't currently exist. Both a marketing company, it's simultaneously a research group. So it either it's already mapped the information networks, so it can do marketing very well. It can propagate any information you need to the right networks, or it sort of does research, flips it. If you give this consultancy something and it's not able to propagate it, then it flips into, now it's a research project in order to figure that out. And so really, I think what this is actually a memetics institute, and there's actually a lot of them, but they're all in this dark forest thing. So you don't find them, they find you, and so. But this is the space. This is operating in. The thing that's happening here is the big milestone coming up is the this unconference love symposium in San Francisco that Joshua and I got invited to. I think, well, part of it is he was making these tools to sort of analyze or visualize internet arguments. And so what he's doing here is you can see sort of like visually graphing, like imagine if you could graph how people fall off away from the topic. So like, you know, maybe the red here that's going in the bottom right is like derailing the topics. So like, you know, moving into like angry comments or like not actually talking about the original topic. So imagine if you could sort of see the trajectory of the argument. And so the science we're doing is sort of identifying at which point sort of it fell off the good trajectory, and making predictions and making interventions on that, because you might be aware part of some of the successful things I've done in the past that I want to revisit now is the Anatomy of an Internet Argument, which is a series that I want to make into a book, which that could be something that makes money and then funds other things in the ORI network. But this is something pretty popular. Every time I've done it, it's basically taking internet interaction and sort of making it as a little puzzle. So this was one of the first ones where someone was like, you know, this posting this like rude like question. They're like obviously very angry, and then I hear it's like blocked out like my response. This is the In Good Faith account, which I don't really use right now, but I say something here, and so they switch from, you know, yelling at me into like, okay, they apologize, and then they sort of explain. And so this blew everyone's mind, because nobody believes that you can have positive, pro-social, productive internet arguments unless you're in, you know, communities like the rationalists or Earth Teapot or whatever, where like they have high standards of like truth-seeking or whatever. But the whole claim of Anatomy of an Internet Argument is that everybody's truth-seeking. It's just that if your conversations don't look like this, if they're productive, you're actually learning something and you're having a good time, it's because you don't understand the other guy. So it's a bit of like, you know, science, but also social engineering here of like how do you get into someone's mind and sort of learn something from them, even if the interaction starts out hostile. It's also a bit of theater. Like it's fun. It's a fun thing to do. And it's participatory. Like the reason I think the reason I think it'll make money and will be pretty popular is because you read the book, you see these crazy examples of people changing their mind and people just being, you know, positive, and you're invited to try it yourself. And if you try it and it works, you can sort of submit the attempt, whether it worked or not, to us. And we might feature it, or we might sort of diagnose it, like tell you like, okay, here's where you went wrong, which I think honestly makes it incredible. I haven't seen like any sort of participatory art. I think is pretty fun and easy to get content from. So, and this already happened. Like someone, you know, a while ago was like, you know, I took these techniques and I came pretty close to like changing someone's mind on a polarizing Instagram story, and he's like, I hope Defender's proud of me, and I think we could do a lot more like this. It's really wholesome. It's really fun. So this is the goal. So I'm trying to I want to establish this thing, this marketing consultancy, and then one of the projects I want to do for it is Anatomy of an Internet Argument, and I want maybe we'll launch it at this conference. I mean, it's a good excuse to sort of try to do it and show it and get feedback. So we'll see. Yeah, and this is just some of the things I think I'll claim as like successes that we've had as part of, because again, this is just all the memetics work I've been doing. The spicy one is Epistemic Garden, where the public story of how this, you know, started is nowhere online, because I haven't explained it, and it's a little spicy. But I think I can safely say, like, you know, this, you know, Epistemic Garden came out of a prototype that I made and I marketed. So it's actually an example of what ORI can do for you. I mean, we didn't get paid for this, but it's a template of what we can do. So you come to ORI with like a big idea, but you don't know how to started, you don't know where to find collaborators, you don't know where to find investors. So what we do is we take it, we understand it, and then we sort of do science communication about it. We make a prototype, we do the science communication, and in this case, did a few things that went viral, and a bunch of investors and people DM me, and we're like, hey, how do I work on this? How do I invest in this? And then we funnel those people towards there. So I don't know. I feel like this is like the bread and butter. Like I think we can do this again. We just have to find the right project. There's also other stuff which I can talk about in another video, but yeah. But if you're in the memetics department of ORI, we can have a separate conversation about this. Oh, and I mean, this is just an example of a recent success where the word I wrote about this. The word Streisand deflect was coined, and it's officially in the Urban Dictionary now. And I think this is kind of a big concrete success of our memetics cluster. Like, I mean, this wasn't me personally, so it's not. I wouldn't consider this something that I did, but it's sort of an example of what we could do. It's a successful example of coining new words, and this is where I say like the ORI is special because it's not just the research group, right? We're like, a lot of academic researchers try not to interfere with the subjects that they're studying, whereas ORI doesn't have that restriction. Like we can look at it's like here, I think that's what makes memetics different than sociology. Like we can look at the language it's propagating, and then we can try to change it, try to launch our own experiment inside of there and see what happens, and then write about did it have the effect we intended or not, and all of that is public and it's visible. So obviously, it's like attaching a research institute to like a corporation and just doing both at the same time. Okay, now let's look at some of the upcoming pitches. This was one that I'm pretty convinced we should just do. I just need someone to either I would lead it, or I need someone else to lead it. We'll figure it out. But it's a very simple. It's a polls app. It's like Twitter polls, but the answers are public. So on Twitter, you can ask a question. You don't know who said what, but this would be. You log in with Twitter, you answer the question, and you can see who said what. And so this GIF is from a tool that already exists that someone made. There's links in there for like AI mapping the discourse across AI. So another example is like for the question, do humans have a moral duty to build AI? And then you can see where all the different people, you can see like Sam Altman and Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Anthropic. You see Mark Andreessen far on the right, and then you can see Udowski very far on the left. And the idea would be you could, I think these are made kind of manually. I think if you open up this app, you can see like if you want to add something, you have to email them and they sort of add it. The version we would make would be you see this thing and then you just click on it and then tweet, and then you either tweet and then the tweet gets picked up here, or you just put it in. And then the nice thing would be you would be able to see, there could be 1,000 people, 1 million people, it doesn't matter, putting their opinion in here, but the opinions that matter to you are the ones in your network, in your whitelist, your trust list, like people you follow, and you can even sort them by follower count, which is a proxy for, I guess, trust. Or you can sort of curate your own list of like, here's the experts on topic X, so highlight that. This would be pretty simple to build. It'd be extremely powerful for a lot of different reasons, which I can go into in its own video. But I think what'll happen if we do this is, first of all, I think it'll be very popular, so it'll bring a lot of attention to ORI. I think we can use it even just internally to get a sense of our egregore. What do we believe? And what are things that everyone in ORI believes, and what are things that split ORI, like our scissor statements. So I mean, I really want that tool. In fact, I sort of have this like cute vision of imagine if we have like to start with, I want to figure out like what are our common beliefs in ORI that are not widely shared, because that's what defines ORI. Like there's a lot of things that are true that everyone believes, but the things that are true that only the people within ORI believe are the, I use those as signals. So like when I find someone saying something that's like people think is crazy but we think is true, I sort of pull them into ORI. So the cute thing is like imagine if new members to ORI have to sort of submit a question to sort of grow that canon of shared beliefs, and we, you know, with this thing we can even track like when people change their beliefs. So there might be something where like everyone else disagrees except and then you're on like the far end of it, but then we write some essays, we do this thing, and then you can see people shift, and then you know, and then I don't know, we can see a timeline of who's changing, but it doesn't have to be complicated. I think it's just like I wanted to take a current snapshot, and also at any time you can go in and change your own stance on it. And you don't have to worry about updating it. I think you'll only change it when it's relevant. Like when someone, you know, new person in ORI looks at it and he's like, oh, you know, he looks at Defender, looks at Sam or whatever. It's like, wait, do you really believe this? And Sam could say like, oh no, I've changed my mind. I wrote a new essay here, or I have a new tweet here, and then we can, and you can all go in and update them. Yeah, and there's a bunch of related things here. I don't know how much I want to say about this right now. The basic idea is, I mean, one of the I think the main projects of ORI should be mapping the frontier, like answering this question of who's the top person in each field. We haven't done it yet because it's a spicy thing to sort of have a canonical list of. And I say the top line here is like, you know, replicate. Janice is famous, you know, renowned for like an expert researcher in LLM psychology. Michael Levin is renowned for, you know, it's hard to describe, but he's renowned for his bioelectricity paradigm pushing work. So there was this Twitter argument with one of the guys who's on my radar. He sort of he's sort of the category, the archetype of like kind of like a lot of people in ORI who claims to be very far ahead of most people, and that he's, you know, it's not recognized yet. And he was giving praise to the argument was just funny because like in his view he was like Replicate and Levin are pretty high, and then he was sort of wanting to put himself in that same circle, and then Replicate was like, who the fuck are you? Like you're just some guy. I don't think you're that level, and he got really mad because he saw himself as higher than Replicate, and from my perspective, I actually think he might be right, and. So as I say the story, because I think one, like this is why it's spicy, but two, I think it does actually matter. And I was talking to Tess about this because one of the problems of you being on the frontier is that you don't get feedback anymore. You don't get challenged. Like the list of people that can actually challenge you is very small, and this is why ORI can have such value in the first place. Like remember when I said at the very beginning, like when like either Sam or someone like Tess, you know, writes something or finds an insight or novel breakthrough, and then later more notable people find them and want to hire them or want to invest in them or want to use their ideas or their work. And the reason we can do that is because there's a certain kind of blindness you get at the frontier, little hard to explain, but I mean, no, I mean, it's not hard to explain. It's just there's a lot of there's a lot of pieces here. One of them is this attention cliff you talk about here. So like the people who are you expect that the most notable person is also the person who has the most attention is the person who has the most skill. And that tends to be how it is up to a certain point where there's like this weird cliff, and beyond there, it's hard to tell who's above who. Part of that is power, where people sort of don't want to admit people that are more competent than them because that gives them power, and they don't trust them. So there's, especially the highest levels, there's power shenanigans here. And the other thing is just even if there weren't like any malicious intent here, it's hard for you to see who's above you. Like in general, this is why the ELO ranking thing would work. You can sort of rank, you can tell who's at your level, you can tell who's a little higher than you, but you can't easily rank people above you. So we sort of need everyone to sort of rank each other honestly, and it's not gonna be fun because like nobody wants to know ranking humans in general is just pretty fraught. But the reason we want to do this is because it'll pull everyone up. It'll pull the whole network up. Like everybody should have, and this is why the ABU ranking thing exists. It's a way to unfakeably surface who's above you. If somebody can give you A rate, and if you don't know what this is, there's a post on my Substack. A just means you recognize this information as novel and useful from your perspective. So if the ELO ranking system works, then someone who can produce novel and useful information to you is above you. They're sort of above you in that sense. And that doesn't mean the ranking isn't necessarily is not one objective measure, but like if you can give someone a lot of new novel and useful information but they cannot, then what that is a mentor relation. Like you're mentoring them, and the ideal thing in ORI is for everyone to find one person behind them, one person in front of them, and that's it. You make this chain, and then we find sort of who's the top along whatever axis you pick. So I guess this is more like maybe there's a piece of software here. I don't know, but it's sort of this ongoing project that I think will be a pretty core thing in creating the network of ORI. This is a sort of a side project in ORI, but I also feel it feels pretty central to me. I can't decide if it's more one of my projects as a member of ORI, or if it's like a staff thing that everyone should be contributing to. But this feels kind of similar to or connected to the Polls app, in that what I want from this thing is this is technically the onboarding guide, like this I'm also calling it like an open source book. But what it does is represent what things ORI believes. So these are things that like these are sort of things that this is how I curate. This is who I invite to ORI. There's a sort of minimal sort of beliefs or understanding about how the world works that I believe is true and not yet widely propagated. And I want to write this down. So I mean, it's also an excuse to try this thing of an open source book, because I want us to do this in ORI to sort of collaboratively write things. So let me just show you this real quick. A lot of this here is the initial draft is by Pixie. I have a sort of slightly different format I want to do, but just to show you how this book works. So it's just markdown stuff on GitHub. So this page, the introduction or whatever, I'll just pick a page here. You can see the raw. It's just markdown, so just plain text. And the idea is you can look at this thing and then you can edit it. Just click the edit button and you're here, and then you can just make a change. Change here, and then you can click commit, and then it's up. And actually, well, not everyone may have like edit access, so instead of it directly changing the book, what it does is make a pull request, which I then can, like, people who have edit access can look at, approve, they can discuss, debate. So it's the same. I want this workflow for editing code that software engineers are used to, but we want to do this on knowledge. Yeah, I mean, I think this would just be a very powerful thing. Like you're reading something, and actually, like, I don't know, like, you know, Sam's work has been getting a lot of feedback in the Discord, right? And what he has is a Word document. People read it, and they're like, oh, I think this, you're missing this here. What do you mean by that? Or blah, blah, blah. And then he takes that feedback, makes a new version, and puts it out there again. You can sort of do the same thing more visibly in GitHub. And in fact, like the reason, you know, it's not just nicer if you want to scale it to, like, I don't know, thousands of people contributing to this thing, and not getting out of hand and it being overwhelming. Like GitHub is made for that. GitHub is made for, like, you know, it's not books, but it's like source code with millions of lines of code with, you know, thousands of files and teams of people, you know, reviewing and looking and testing and updating, and all that history is tracked. So if there's any, you know, sort of change to the theory, in our case, it'd be nice to see, like, okay, here's when it changed, who changed it, and why, and what they were thinking, and what changed their mind. So that's the idea. But I guess, like, yeah, a lot of what I want to document here is, like, for example, this what is true and what is real, how we at ORI answer these questions, because I like, again, like, I think everyone already has shared beliefs here, and that's why I sort of picked you to be here. But I want to make some of this explicit and some of it clearly written down. And honestly, I think that would help me personally, because a lot of what I do, and I had a post about this in the Discord, I call this, like, bungee jumping into other worldviews. And the best way to do that is to literally believe what the other guy believes, and to look at the world through that. And it can get confusing. On any given day, I'm carrying inside my head a lot of different world models, and a lot of them are, like, really complicated and wrong. Like, a lot of times the truth is far simpler than the incorrect world model. But I need to understand the incorrect world model, because part of my job is understanding everyone and sort of creating a pathway. I mean, first of all, any insights they have, I want to be able to sort of access those. But if they want to update, if I want them to change their mind, they want to change their mind, I can do that by building a bridge from their world model to mine. So it'd be helpful to have, like, here's a simple truth. Here's the truth. Here's how the world works, and then we you know, every time there's a fundamental change to that, we can sort of look at that and update it. And, you know, another one is, like, what is religion? Because I think that's a pretty big shared belief that a lot of people already have that doesn't match what, you know, people outside have. So I think if we do this right, what you have here will be something that most people in ORI don't need to read. The way I envision it is, like, to answer, you know, what is, let me show you, like, how I answer what is true and what is real. Like, you should just be able to look at it and be like, yep, that looks right. I don't have no qualms. If you look at it and you're like, oh, this is completely wrong, this is crazy, then there, you know, there may be a debate or discussion here. So here, you know, so predictive power is one aspect of truth, and then the invariance of truth under all perspectives. So those are two, you know, maybe cornerstones of how to define truth. So I actually want, so that this chapter can just have literally these two sentences, and it can link to essays for people who haven't already gotten there. There may be, like, a whole book, you know, about, you know, because a lot of this is quite deep and profound, and it takes a long time to sort of absorb. But we don't need that. I really just want this as, like, record here. Another one is about free will and determinism, which again, I think everyone in ORI agrees about this. But how you get there and the arguments for that, it could be, you could have a lot of different paths to get there. And actually maybe part of the onboarding is like you looking at this list and being like, oh yeah, I believe this and I believe that because I read this book or I read this. So you see what I mean? Like you just kind of add your thing to the appendix to it. Okay, two more projects here. This is one, and again, this one I think is more like a personal memetics project that I've had on my desk as a member of ORI, but it could also be a really good project for someone else at ORI to take and complete. And this one's potentially paid, although like a small amount. So real quick, the good and evil words is a tool that I made where you can using a language model you sort of measure any word against this axis of good and evil, or you can put any other words in there. What the project here would be writing an essay for Pudding, which is a website. It's a digital publication, digital magazine that published a lot of really cool interactive essays. And I pitched this to them like over a year ago, and I think they were interested, but they didn't fully understand the project. And I hadn't actually made this by that time. I was still sort of trying to describe it, so it was a little hard to understand. I think it was a little ahead of its time, but I think its time may be coming. And I think the reason, I mean, so if the Pudding accepts it, this would be great because it's like it's a publication in something outside of our cluster. So it's something you'd have your name on it and it would look good. And it's a good portfolio thing and it would reach new people. So it's good for all those reasons, but I also think it's potentially like an actual research project that can, if done right, collect data and like sort of validate a hypothesis here. So I mean, I just want to stress that like part of it is explaining how language models work, because I think a lot of people still don't understand that, and I've never had the chance to sort of play with semantic embeddings. Because one of the takeaways I want people to get from this is that when you're talking to a language model is actually very good at simulating different subcultures. So when you're talking to hold on, let me how do I show this? When you're talking to the point I'm trying to make here is that when you're talking to so the embeddings give you a way of numerically showing like bias in a model. So here, capitalism actually, like you can see capitalism is more evil than communism, and so that represents a specific bias in society that the language model has picked up on, but in reality. So this is the research piece. The real human society doesn't actually, like if you asked humans, they don't all agree that capitalism is here in the middle or close to the middle. What they actually believe is it depends on who you ask. So if the aggregate model correctly shows you like, okay, if you polled everyone and then you aggregated those responses, you'll get this. But if you separated people, you'll find some people who are like on one extreme, it peaks here, and on the other extreme, and those are different groups of people the model is aggregating over to get a single sort of answer. And what I want this research project to do, this article pitch, is to sort of, it would be a way for people to understand how language models work and what bias is in there, and also how language models are a way of numerically measuring, this cultural understanding. So that's base level, but I also want people to sort of play this game of like where would you put it? So you take capitalism, and you're like, okay, I think capital. Let's say that if this is in a right wing circle, then I put like capitalism is good. If there's a left wing, they'll put capitalism as all the way to evil. And then after playing the game, you sort of see these patterns, and we, for the first time ever, because I don't think this data has ever been collected in this way. You first of all, like, I mean, I basically there's a lot here. Like, I have theories about like how the results are going to aggregate and what different subcultures believe that they, a lot of this may be implicit knowledge that they don't know, but until tested, then they sort of make explicit, and then they understand that, and it's this like cultural self-reflection thing. But also there's a sense of tugging on these words, like these words move over time. So the word gay, 10 years ago or 20 years ago might have been all the way evil, and then it's been getting pulled. And the degree to which things are getting pulled is based on which subcultures believe what, and in what direction are they winning? Like the ultimate thing here is like sort of make a thing that visualizes the culture war, right? Like literally you can see the force, you can see things, you can see society being torn apart. And maybe we could fix it. Okay, so this is why this is a pretty big deal. But it's very hard. It's kind of hard to sort of, it's obviously a big vision. But there's a version that can be done here that I think can go viral. It'll be really fun, and it would sort of plant that idea, and sort of we can keep iterating with interfaces that visualize this. But the ideal version of this, and if Pudding don't want to take it, we can just kind of self-publish or find another publication. The cutest thing would be if you have this kind of monitor, and as people play the game, if you can tell when the game goes viral in different subcultures. Like, imagine if you expect to see, where'd it go, if you expect to see the hump, if you expect to see both humps, and so far you're only getting one of them, you're like, okay, well, I got the left wing people, and you're waiting, and then suddenly this one starts to grow, you're like, hey, we're hitting the right wing cluster. And it would actually be a way for us to measure, are we the mimetic landscape, the different parts of the human meme project, and this it would lead to that. So that's why I'm excited about this one. But I guess, what do we need here? I think we need kind of a project manager and a developer. I can be the developer, although my time has been, my attention's been split by too many things. But yeah, we need a PM and a developer, maybe a designer. The nice thing about Pudding is that they have their own designer that you can work with. But if not, then we'd have to get our own. This is an essay. So Palladium, this is something that's been on my desk also for a while. Palladium is like a pretty what's the word? High status, like respected magazine, and we maybe have an opportunity to sort of pitch them an essay about mimetics. So we sort of have someone who knows the editor who might endorse something, and this would be again any sort of opportunity to publish outside of our cluster, outside of just our own Substacks is really good, because it puts ORI, puts our ideas into new networks. But this would potentially be pretty big as a thing to define the field. So I believe the current status of the mimetics as a scientific field is that it's kind of trying to be born, and right now everyone's just kind of fighting over what to name it. And so this could actually be a pretty historical thing to sort of define the field and sort of frame it. If you say like, hey, here's everyone, and if you do this with integrity and transparency, you're like, okay, look, here's what this field is, here's the open problems, here's the current status, here's like all the different people and what they're doing, and you don't have to say like this guy doesn't like that guy, but you can just say like here's what everyone's good at, and because there's a field here, and different people are good at different things, and everyone's working independently. But it could be about to congeal, Okay, so that's it. Sort of it would be pretty significant. Again, this would be paid, and it would be a good thing for whoever writes it. It'd be their name on it. I mean, it seems appropriate that I take this, but I don't know. I'm still trying to figure this out. Okay, but then in the general, there's a meta thing here, which is I think ORI. One of the unique things about it is it's an incubator for, some things incubate companies. I think ORI can incubate scientific fields. We can launch fields, and that sounds insane, but I think it's not going to be insane, because I think scientific fields we should have a lot more of them. There should be a lot more churn. Scientific fields weren't meant to last forever. This is one of the radical beliefs of ORI that I think is true, but not yet widely propagated. So that's one of the things we're in the business of, and so that's why I want to try it here. Like, you sort of identify an opportunity to launch a scientific field, and then how do you launch a scientific field? I think we know how to do that. And actually, I don't have this here, but QRI, the Quality Research Institute, and the work they've done, I think that's actually an example of how to launch a scientific field. You don't often call it like, I'm launching a brand new field, because everyone's like, well, that doesn't make any, like, if you sort of frame it as if it's something already existing, but just like an incremental update, it's easier to accept. But I think it actually is it's a distinct, like, school of thought. That's one way to put it also. So we want to get into the business of launching scientific fields, because I think there's a lot of them that need to be launched, and memetics is one of them. And so this is a piece of that. Yeah. Okay, so what are we doing now? This part is more speculative, but like, I think the immediate goal that I have for this week is to make a new website for ORI. I mean, we have a website, it's fine. It doesn't explain much. I want to make a new website. Tess is helping me with design. And it should explain, well, hopefully you all kind of understand a bit more of what the heck's going on here, and we just have to sort of find the concise explanation that works for right now. And I think the important thing is just going to be, surface our successes, and then show what we're working on, show who we're working with, and sort of make our ask. I'd like to fundraise, but also I want to tell people who we're looking for, and I want these, like, more of the people that we currently have, people who have big projects that need to be incubated, that could, if given support and attention, bring resources, or those people might want to work on one of the existing projects we have, and if they can bring them to fruition, then the network, those guys benefit, and the network benefits. Our funding or investment model, like, it's still open. Like, do we want to just take a bunch of money as ORI and then give out grants and hire people? Do we want to just have individual people take the money themselves? So instead of ORI is just a network of people, and they each have their own sort of budgets. And then that's why I'm starting my own LLC, so I can be one of the nodes that can take money and hire others. And more of you guys can just do that and enter. Or if you don't want to do that, then ORI itself can just be a legal entity. And I'll post sort of like team wise. We can sort of figure that out. But everyone's doing different things. And a lot of you are already working with each other to an extent. And we have a lot of advisors who are not in the Discord, that are just people I talk to, but I also want to make that visible for others, so that they're in our network and that they can lend advice. And one of them is Michael Garfield, who's a big fan of our work. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his work. He's sort of been for longer than I've been doing this, I think, independently trying to create something like ORI, and so it's just kind of a matter. Like, for a while, I was hoping he would just start something, and sort of I would work inside of that. But I think there's still a lot of missing pieces, and so I think what we're doing here will sort of establish a lot of those missing pieces, and I think those two networks can grow together. And I have a lot of various Cornell friends, professors in various fields who can sort of help. And I think actually that this could be a big thing that ORI provides, is like connecting to the academic world as a way to like sort of give you legitimacy or again feedback. So that's a bridge that we can build. And actually Michael Garfield himself acts as that bridge between like esoteric independent researchers on the internet and like traditional academia, because he lives in both of those worlds. I mean, this list should be bigger. This is just some people off the top of my head of like promising people. So Oz is someone in the network. I think he has I think a lot of you are familiar with his work. He has his own, like the way I see Oz in the grand scheme of things here is he has his own projects that I think can get funded and be successful and sort of be executed. And that would be, again, another way to sort of grow the network and sort of validate, like, can you go, like, how does someone go from an independent researcher to, getting funded and releasing the work and having impact? Okay, or you can be someone who might be interested in one of these projects. Someone would be a great team member, contributor, and make a successful project, which should bring funding or attention to everyone who contributed and grow the network. Kat is a recent, newest member, I guess, to ORI, who like is in the memetics department, who I think acts as like a product manager or a PM who can look at what projects are happening and which ones should prioritize and what do matter, or she can sort of pitch her own projects that could get funded and grow the network. Sun Tzugu is someone, he's not actively on our Discord, but he's someone I want to reconnect with because he is someone who can similarly sort of launch a new field, and he's sort of, I think, been ahead of his time for a while, but maybe his time is coming. So I sort of put him in the same bucket as Tessus. He's sort of working on theoretical things, but if he's attached to the right project, he can bring a lot of value, and then eventually he'll get noticed, and he'll be a big deal. And I want sort of ORI to be one of the first people to found him or invested in him. This is just kind of threw this off the top of my head. Like, I was trying to think of like, if we're putting up a website, like what are the different tracks at ORI? What are we doing? What does everything fall into? I think a lot of it falls in under this like universal alignment, which is close to like actually Sun Tzugu's work, but also what I talked about at the beginning about Sam's, unifying religion and science. I can think of it as applied moral philosophy, or as theology, or really, the secular version, the narrow scope is economics. But alignment, what people have been talking about with AI, I think is much more broader than just AI. And if you have the correct alignment theory, you can look at a company that's failing and figure out why it's failing. And sometimes the company is failing because it's doing bad things. If it figures out what to do, it'll be win-win, positive sum. Sometimes the company's doing good things and it's the world that is failing the company. And if that's the case, then you sort of, that's where you actually give it to the memetics department, or more broadly ORI, but the memetics department sort of can look at like, okay, well, sometimes the world is doing the wrong thing because of ignorance, because people don't realize, there's a better way to do this thing, and actually it helps everyone. A lot of times there's a positive sum solution that people don't know about. I'm smiling a little bit here because I've been having Twitter debates where people there's some kind of block in people's minds where they don't understand that. People sort of think it's really rare for there to be a solution to anything that isn't already widely propagated. But the proof, but from my perspective, this happens like all the time. There's an enormous amount of solutions that are already there, that just haven't been implemented yet. And like people, I guess, in their minds sort of look at that and think like, well, if it's not implemented, there must be a reason for why it's not, and then they just kind of sit there, and it's like this fallacy of the efficient market hypothesis. But to me, it's like provably false, and I went to write an essay about this, about how like you can prove that for yourself that it's false, because all you have to do, like, take an important problem in society, fix it, and then like try to tell people about it, and then like there's enormous, like, you can watch how long it takes for good ideas that actually provably work to propagate. It takes an enormous amount of effort, so there's a lot of work to be done here. So I guess this is what the Open Memetics department is for. If in theory, one day the memetics department should be obsolete, because we've fixed the information environment. We've gotten to a world where like good solutions can reach those who need them, and maybe one day it's like that in simple environments or simple societies. But I don't think I don't think the medics work will ever be obsolete, because I think there's always going to be maintenance work to do. But the memetics department has a lot of work to do in its own right, which is it wants to define. First of all, it wants to launch itself as a field. That's step one. But also step two is define what does an ideal information environment look like, and then can we empirically test how far are we from that environment. And one way to do that is this, find a solution that hasn't propagated yet and then watch it propagate. It's kind of it's a rare thing, but also it's a lucrative thing. Like, what does it mean to implement a solution? It means to create businesses, it means to execute, it means to, to capture that value, or to observe that value being captured. And if you're sitting there observing it, you might as well, So this is why I think we can spin out a lot of companies, because the Memetics Institute will look at an industry and be like, nobody seems to have done this, and there's no good reason why this company or product or feature doesn't exist, and then someone can just do it, and we validate that hypothesis, and then that person can capture the value, they can make the money. The Memetics Institute can sit there and just observe that and validate its theories, because it's a research institute, or it can also invest in that person to make money from doing that. And of course, now they have a vested interest in the thing propagating, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. Like their theory, they're invested in the theory being right, which is that's what all scientists do. That they're trying to validate their theory. Someone else can be falsifying it. It's not a problem. Like people are always like, oh, how do you make it objective? But this actually is not a problem. Maybe we'll talk about rigorous intuition later. I mean, this one actually is sort of a layer underneath both of those things. Both of those things are sort of like tracks of knowledge. The rigorous intuition thing it's more of an epistemology thing. It's like how we gain knowledge. Maybe I'll just mention this. Like one of the predictions I have is having mystics or poets or artists or whatever in your research lab will actually produce a lot of novel breakthroughs. And once people see that, they'll sort of be clamoring to sort of find a good poet or mystic or artist. And for a while, that was sort of prediction. I was just kind of waiting for this to happen, and I realized that I think ORI is the place that will make this happen. It could be. So this is an example of us, making a prediction about the world and then being the ones to sort of fulfill that prediction. And if we're right, there should be great benefits to whoever is being the first to execute the thing. And I already explained game theory and information space. That's something I think unlocked by Sam's work, and to me it falls under universal alignment. But there's a lot of work here. Like I think we're still sort of trying to define that. What do you mean by a game theory? And what do you mean? Like religion to me should be understood as game theory, and so that's sort of the prereq. But then once you get enough people who understand that prereq, we can do the work of that field, which is why I think ORI can be can sort of accelerate launching scientific fields, right? So you don't have to wait until like everybody understands the foundations of the field. Like that's where we're stuck with open medics. Like a lot of what I try to explain the foundations of the field I'm sort of raising awareness, but instead of trying to do that broadly, I can just find like 20 people who get it and who want to do the work, and then just kind of bring them together, and then maybe they start an open source book on GitHub, and then you can sort of see what they're doing and sort of see the foundational axioms they have, and then other people can come and debate that, and then they can, you can fork, you can have different teams, and then eventually they produce something novel or useful or lucrative, and that's a field. And then investors will come to us and want to invest in the new scientific field that we have cooking. I just put this here because this is one of the reasons why the logo of ORI is a circle. It's sort of representing this like unity of knowledge. Because I think a lot of us believe that a lot of the bottlenecks in science, pursuit of truth right now is siloing. Like you've gotten a lot of progress, let's say in astrophysics or math or whatever, and what you're looking at is actually an instance of a universal pattern. And there's a simpler way to state this pattern, but you can't see it because you're stuck looking at this one thing. You keep trying to go further and you're stuck. But what you need is what you need are people who can look at the entire thing and see those universal patterns. And we're never going to find them with like the siloed researchers. So a lot of ORI researchers happen to have like a breadth of knowledge. But once you find universal patterns, you also, it flips. Then you can actually have just as much detail and predictive power as the individual specialist. Do you see, like, this is really powerful, and this is like there's mimetic reasons why there's a bottleneck to this transition, but this is important. I don't know if this makes sense. If the specialists are the gatekeepers, then they won't accept these generalists with their universal patterns until they fully develop enough to sort of leapfrog them. But those people also sort of need to be invested in before the universal pattern can, universal like theory of everything can progress that far. And also it comes with like unfamiliar language, and it's much simpler. So they look at it and they're like, well, where's all this complexity? And like, well, the complexity is unnecessary because you only made that complexity because you're looking at a small scope. Like the complexity falls away when you realize there's a universal pattern. So there's a lot of tension in politics there, and that's something ORI needs to solve. Okay, so what's happening next? So I mean, the big thing, like I said, is the website. They want to do to sort of capture some of this and then capture who's doing what. And so I need everyone's help. But if you can see what you can do to help, please help. One of the things that you can help with is find your place in ORI. Define your role, and I want everyone to have a public notebook, and that should be. You can use Obsidian, you can use GitHub, you can use Substack. It can be Twitter, but you should see Twitter more as like a place to broadcast and not as a place to publish, because it's not very searchable. The data is kind of locked. It's a siloed platform. I mean, I do prefer your own personal blog is better. But anyway, the point is I want you to think about your place in ORI, like helping build ORI, or your own projects as a member of the network, either taking on one of these projects, pitching a project that you want other people to come work on with you, or that you want funding for, or that you find one that you want to contribute to. I think at this stage we still need more people who understand what ORI is and can help build it, and at the very least provide feedback. So when you look at the new website, you can say like, well, I know what you're trying to do, and this website this copy doesn't seem to articulate that. Like here's another attempt to do that. That would help a lot. And then from there, I think we just figure out how to make money. Either someone just loves this pitch, this vision, and just believes in us and wants to fund it, because ORI is and will have status, and people can attach their names to that to gain some of that status. Or we sort of pursue these more commercial, lucrative opportunities that can nourish the network. So we want people with big projects that we can help, or we want people who want to hire people to come find us, or like do this kind of consulting model where people have problems, and we have a lot of brilliant people just sitting around, and they can pay for us to work on one of these problems and write about it. So like that's a great way to fund research. Is a company has a problem and they're okay with the solution being public, as long as they get the advantage of help implementing it first. I think that makes it win-win. People come to us with open problems, and then eventually, so we start to get into like the big vision here of if all this starts working, like what I want to start to see is we start to see the big picture of what does humanity look like, and there's some intersection here with the memetics stuff or universal alignment. But I wanna like at some point I see myself as I see all of us, I guess, as working in a big company. The big company is Spaceship Earth. Okay, so it's running well or not well, and I want to find out to what extent what's working, what's not working, how much danger is our civilization in, and what are the dangers, and what can we do about it? Because that's in a healthy functioning civilization, that's the ideal, or like not just a healthy, like that's the ideal civilization. It's one where if there are problems, the problems surface to those who can do something about them. That's it. The news, broadcast news, that serves a function on its best days of it doesn't know who should learn about this problem, so it just kind of broadcasts it to everyone in hopes that someone will look at it and do something about it. But also, there's a lot of shenanigans about like there's some things that are like dangerous to talk about. There's some problems that if you solve them, they hurt people in power. So this is a lot of like what we start to if you have a group of people who are searching for truth, which is what ORI is, which is what a research institute should be, you're gonna start to find like dark patterns. You're gonna start to find these things, and you have to decide what to do about it. And then so that you can then look at like ORI incubating companies. Some of them may or may not be lucrative, but they sort of help solve these problems. Like anytime there's a problem that all of civilization is facing, someone needs to solve it because it confers benefits to everyone. And then the question of how do you fund that is a separate thing. Not everything that is useful is monetizable. Open source has figured out a lot of this. And actually the solution there is kind of there's there's several ways to think about it. One way I think about it is like you reward things with status. Things that are not lucrative but are useful are rewarded with status, and that's actually a good way to do it. So big companies get a status boost when they contribute to open source, and that's good. That actually helps fund the good thing that isn't lucrative. And this is some what's the word? Sorry, it's escaping me. It's like a theoretical or like a hypothetical. It'll come to me after I finish recording this. It's not skeptical. It's like a sketch of what I expect to happen. Okay, we think about the big picture and think about how putting humanity's attention on any one thing is one of the most extremely powerful resource. It's just that like we're unable to do a lot of things because this attention is scattered. But okay, if you can focus that beam of attention of humanity, it solves whatever problem. Okay, but then obviously the problem is like which problem do you direct that attention towards? And people can't agree on that, so like we're stuck, right? Well, not necessarily, because if you realize that like a lot of people want issue X and a lot of people want issue Y, but actually there's a prereq to both of those things, issue Z, that would make both of those things much easier. We can actually get everyone to agree that we should just put attention on Z. You don't have to trust the other guys, but you know that like Z helps Y, so you should want Z, and Z helps X. The fact that Z enables them to go do X over there with their own resources shouldn't be a problem for you, because you still get your Y. So that's it. I think those things exist, and there is no public sort of institution that's looking at this big picture in a way that the average, it's just a person on the internet can go and contribute in an open source way. So that's kind of what we're doing, and you can actually see how this thing. If I still have it up. The good and evil thing, the pudding article can fit into that, because it's sort of an experiment and get a lot of different cultures, aggregate what they believe, and see if you can get everyone to look at that, and that becomes this like cultural metacognitive process. So it's kind of it's a game to practice and see if we can do this process, which could be pretty significant for humanity. And we're supposed to, I think, do this in our group too. Like in ORI, we have all these different things that are all very exciting, but if we put all of our attention in our small group on one thing, if you pick the right thing, it should succeed, and then that grows the network, and then we repeat. So that will be a test of our own alignment. So of alignment theory here. Can we prioritize the right thing? Can we come together, and can we, put attention on the right thing? And if we successfully do that, we should be able to grow in resources. And if we keep doing that, we keep growing and growing, and then we can do it on bigger and bigger scales. So you solve internal alignment, and then you apply the alignment theory into bigger scales. I'll just skip this. Yeah, a lot of this is like my hypothetical sort of artistic takes about the ways of sort of understanding this big picture, and sort of influencing it or learning about it. Okay, so that's it for this update. There's a bunch of things that in the appendix here that didn't make it in. That maybe I can talk about another update, but I kind of just wanted to make you aware of real quick. Here's like important people in the network. I already talked about Michael Garfield, someone who's a connector between these different worlds, academic and also independent researchers, but also like the research and like the corporate or like venture capital. So he's kind of like a very unique connector node. Ronan Tamari is someone who's working on a project that's very relevant to ORI. It's kind of it's one of the initial projects that we wanted to do, and he's gotten funding for it, which is kind of validating. And if it works, we can just use it. But it's like a micro publishing social network, or like open peer review, or like Goodreads for science. So you can sort of think about what we're doing with the ABU ranking system needs a place to exist, and then this could be a place where like the novel research surfaces in the right networks, and then you find people that you want to invest in or collaborate with. So this is happening. Slime Mold, Time Mold, and Adam Mastrioni and Etymology Nerd. I consider them a separate cluster of independent researchers. They're different from us in that they are mostly like are closer to academia, or like they're ex academia, that people with PhDs, unlike most of ORI's people who have never gone through the academic track. So there are people sort of with the insider's knowledge of academia, but who also see the need for independent research. So they're very valuable people, like a branch in the wider ORI network. And actually, it's through that network that I got connected with Etymology Nerd, who's a good example of like someone successful as an independent researcher, because he makes money through making science communication and writing a book, but then also doing original research, and as a linguist, like studying. You could see it's similar to what I'm trying to study with like the mimetic landscape. So he has an audience, and that helps him have visibility into a lot of subcultures on the internet. And so he's sort of funding his own work through that, and he could potentially, fund other projects if it's useful to him. So I see him as a node in this way. And then there's Homebrew NYC, which is a similar thing to. It's kind of it's sort of, I almost see it as like an ORI chapter in real life in New York City. They have a space where independent researchers are each working on different things, and they collaborate. So this is sort of similar to how Tessis is in Argentina with Edge City, working there and making contact there. We could have, there should be some cross-pollination, fruitful cross-pollination here, whether like someone from ORI goes to New York City to work there in person, or maybe we invite someone from them to give a talk here or give a talk there. So very, very similar, very, very aligned. So it's another like network I wanna connect. And they have a Discord that I haven't checked it out yet, but it's on my radar. If you know Model Noah on Twitter, he's a category theory person. He's sort of one of my entry points or contacts there. Then you have like mimetics people, Michael Smith. I'll talk more about him, but I see him as a very important node in the new field, the new science of mimetics. And also Ronan V, you can find him on Twitter. He's arguably like the original like Mimetics Institute. He was one of the first people who found me and recognized, or sort of recognized that what I was doing had the shape of a Mimetics Institute, and I sort of learned that shape of what it means to have a Mimetics Institute from him. A lot of his work is not public, but he's sort of executing more than he is sort of giving away or like writing up the techniques. But I see him also as another like important node of like where Michael Smith I see as a visionary, as a pioneer of like theoretical mimetics. Ronan is like applied mimetics. He's actually executing and implementing these things, maintaining these networks of information networks. This is a link I just found today from Nadia, a collection of micro grants, and again, a lot like ORI could itself be something that gives out. I mean, it has been something that's been giving out micro grants. We just haven't been keeping track of them publicly, and it's been mostly my personal money. But these are like good places for see what else is available, like for other projects. So I want to make a list of like, when someone comes to ORI, how do we fund it? And like, okay, there's stuff where we can give them money, or if it makes sense to apply for one of these things. So this is a resource. What else do we have here? These are nodes that are like outlets. So these two, like Demystify, Psi, and Kurt's theories of everything. Both I see as places where ORI people can publish. So these podcasts like publish high signal work that like I've learned about a lot of people who I consider like ORI people through them, and so when you think about publishing in ORI, like I don't think of it as like necessarily traditionally journal publishing. Different places to publish give you different, there's different status associated with it, and also different audiences associated with it. And these two are on my, like, these two are maybe the beginnings of, you can imagine a list of like, or I maintaining a list of like where to publish. And it's like, okay, well, if you want to publish to in video form to reach these audiences, here's where you can try to pitch. And it'd be nice to have like relationships with them. Right now we just of them, and if you tag them on Twitter with like the right pitch, they'll like that and might want to have you on there. I mean, Demystify Side specifically have like an event where people can do like 1-minute pitches of their big theory of everything. So these are like the beginning of a list of places to publish. These two are YouTube channels, are examples of successful, like, they're not part of ORI, but they're examples of what a successful member of ORI would grow into or become, or a good template for us, where they both do this open lecture series, and they have a Patreon for Predictive History as a Substack where you can pay to access. And the only, like, it's a great model for ORI, and in some ways it's what my Twitter is. Like, I think everyone in ORI should be teaching. And where do you get your audience? So that's something we can help you with. There's a few things missing they have, which is they're missing like TAs and grad students. Like a lot of what I try to do is like give out homework, and then whoever sort of successfully solves that homework, I take as I sort of recruit for ORI. These people are mostly doing it as like a one man operation, but if they were in ORI, I would sort of tell them to create a funnel so that they can find people who can contribute to their work, and they can just give them work. And a lot of people are willing to sort of volunteer to do that because they want to learn. And having students is a good way for you to also accelerate your work. So that's what I would do. But they obviously have pretty big reach on YouTube, and it'd be nice if more, like a successful member of ORI should be able to propagate their ideas and should start to grow an internet audience. Less Foolish, Peter Limburger is another example of, like, I mean, he runs kind of a thing called the STOA, which I forget what it stands for, but his blog is called Less Foolish. They're doing a kind of a class on creatology, which is the study of power. And that again struck me as a very good template for ORI, where first of all it's like, again, they're establishing a new scientific field, they're calling it creatology, and explaining like the basics of this field and why it exists and what they're trying to do with it, and also they're actively teaching it, and teaching it is a way of, again, propagating the ideas, but also making money and finding collaborators and so on. So these are all good models, and I want, like I was saying earlier, ORI ELO ranking, mapping the frontier, or making this network. I want to be mapping people. I want to map the best person in each field, whether or not they're in ORI. This is really important. Like the fact, like, we want to grow the ORI network, but the more important thing, like ORI should be able to map the frontier. And the frontier happens to be in ORI because we're pushing it, or it's outside of ORI, so we find it and then we learn from it and then we grow towards it, or we propagate its ideas, right? So it's like either you're pushing the frontier and you're looking for people to help you, or you find the frontier and you help them. So that should be how it works. Let's see how many more here. This is a project by Marianne that is big on my radar because it's very, very, very similar to a lot of what I'm trying to do with the mimetic engineering stuff. So this is someone I want to collaborate with or look to as a peer, as a comparable. It's that. This is an example of something we in ORI have funded, and it seems to be going well. I haven't followed up on it, but this is something that I'd probably put as on the website or in one of our successful projects. It's hard to explain, but the reason I funded it initially is because it felt like it was building the original vision I had for the ORI as a social network, which is it's built on Obsidian, which is a note-taking app, and it's about building interconnected research notebooks or interconnected personal knowledge notebooks. It's kind of very similar to another project. This is by a professor, University of Washington, who's trying to almost do almost exactly the same thing, where like researchers at universities can each have their like knowledge bases, their research notebooks, and then see where'd it go. And then, if you're working on a problem and another lab is working on the same problem and you have a piece that they're missing, you should be able to start to see that, and you start to see where the gaps are. And you can see how this is, I want this for ORI, right? I want this for the network because, this is how we fill in this guy. Where, if someone is discovers a piece here that's actually relevant to the social sciences over there, or in medicine that's relevant in the geology, these disciplines that otherwise aren't talking, I want to be able to look across the entire knowledge graph, which is also, I think, a similar thing that will come out of this. So this is like our version of that. It's open source, and he's building the way I would have built it. Okay, and this is the last thing. This one is a project that is potentially an example of like a consulting thing that ORI could be doing, and if it's successful, it should help everyone. Basically, I had this tweet that went viral a while ago about how I want to be able to zoom in and out of articles, essays, and books, and that will help. That will be a very useful reading tool, but also would be kind of a big deal. And someone's trying to build it, and so I've been sort of talking to them, Pixie and I, and I don't know yet where this is going, but it's a good. There's a lot of different ways it can go, and I want more stuff like this to fall out of ORI, right? Where like we sort of have these like experimental ideas that would improve, these big ideas, and then maybe we prototype something, and then maybe someone takes it and builds it and validates the theory, and then we support them. To what extent we make money from it, I don't know, but if they're but to me, if they're like building tools that help people learn faster or that will help us, then it's great. And actually, that itself can be sort of a research project that someone in ORI can just collaborate with, and you don't have to get money from it. Maybe you're using it as a way to learn, and that's why it's valuable too. Okay, that's it.